The only one interested.
The United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, you almost said that, Dan?
Yeah, I am. All right, you already got it.
Is there anyone here with an issue or question or concern they'd like to address the board with? It's not on the agenda? You guys are interested in the agenda.
No, they're interested in the same thing they were here the last time, but I thought the assessor was gonna be here for 8:30 report.
I thought so too.
You have a public hearing.
And she's, I guess I could text you. Is he up there?
Yeah.
But again, I'll ask the clerk to take the roll
Supervisor Michaelenko,
here.
Counselors Ruxishell,
Here.
Lee Hood. Here. Dueling,
Here,
Doctor. Here.
Hey, Matt.
here.
And
Matt. He might be waiting. We got a public hearing on water rates. So he's probably waiting till after that. If you don't come down in 10 minutes.
Want me to go or no?
No, because his thing's gonna go a lot longer than the public water rate. He probably looked at the agenda, so we have a 8:35 public hearing.
0 seconds, I think.
Yeah, that's, so he'll be down. Sorry about that, Ange.
Oh, you're good.
That's okay.
Okay. Let's jump down and get some the mundane things done. How about the board minutes of August 14th? Any discussion?
Oh, they were fine.
Okay, I have a motion from Max, a second from Karen. Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. And do you anticipate a lengthy discussion on the record management policies and procedures?
No, not really. I'm just looking for authorization. I gave everyone the policy and procedure pamphlet last time, so really just looking for approval.
Has anyone got any questions or concerns? You've had a chance to review them? I wanna thank Ange for updating these. We've got a stack of policies about 6 inches high and it's no easy task going through them. So between Kerry Fusco and Ange, my understanding, they've been sifting through a number of them and this is the latest for update.
Yeah, the next ones we're doing are the investment policies, when people go for conferences, travel reimbursement, and then we're gonna be doing cash like and credit cards.
No objection, I will make the motion.
Okay, I have a motion from Karen. Second from Sarah. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried.
Do the leadership greater Syracuse.
Pardon me?
Since Peter's here, did you want to do the leadership greater Syracuse, but
Yes, okay, thanks. I didn't see Peter come in. Peter, you wanna make your request for the leadership Greater Syracuse?
Sure. Actually, I hoped Shannon was gonna be here so that she could make her case herself. But she has asked for consideration of the board to attend Leadership Greater Syracuse next year. She laid it all out in a memo that I believe everybody got. It is a big commitment on behalf of it's also a big commitment on behalf of the town. But I believe it reflects, if the town decided to do it, it reflects the support that they would give.
So basically, we would pay the tuition costs
Correct.
and the compensation for the hours that she spent.
Got it. Yes.
There she is, yay. Okay, Here you are, the grand finale. Come on.
Any questions, comments from the board?
Different tuition apps.
The tuition ask was 23 out of the 43.
And I want her to speak if that's okay.
I'm kind of biased. I'm an LGS graduate, class of 1996,
I remember 1996.
a little bit ago.
I'm gonna get out of Shannon's way now and let her answer any more questions for you.
Yeah. So thank you guys for taking the time to consider. Do you like, should I give a summary or I don't know how far Peter got?
He just introduced. So we know that we're gonna cover tuition and the hours that you spend at the meetings.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, great.
Well, we didn't make the call.
Oh,
We didn't agree yet on there. Go ahead.
sorry, I skipped a few steps there then. So yeah, basically I pulled the top from their website. It's just kind of a good networking opportunity. I also just really want to learn a little bit more about Syracuse. I grew up here, but there's a lot of the business side that I'm not really familiar with. I think that would be really good for the town of DeWitt to get involved in, just because we are pretty business friendly here. So, for the other reasons also listed below, want to do more programs and see who we can reach out to for that. Specifically with the David Klim Learning Center. I really want to reach out to more educational people, get more involved with Syracuse University and SUNY Onondaga, because we're already pretty involved with Lemoyne. Just want to learn more leadership methods for our counselors for summer day camp, just so they're a little bit more prepared with the campers that we have as well. And then also, I think it'd be really cool to bring them out to Carrier Park for one of the classes because there are 12 throughout the entire year. So just kind of show them that that's also a pretty cool park, just based on the inclusion factor, more than just providing like the sports facility. And yeah, like you said, it's the total cost is 4,300. But I'd like you to cover 2,300 and then I would cover the rest. And then it starts in January of 24, goes to November. The classes are once a month, usually on a Thursday, from 8 to 5. And yes, I was hoping it would count as like a continuing education type thing. So I was hoping to clock in for those classes. That's pretty much everything.
Shannon, I have a few questions. Are they still doing the overnight in February?
They do, they
2
do
days?
have a
Okay.
2-night retreat,
So
yeah.
13 days, and then the design classes, have they talked to you about that? Those are after our meetings?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. I'm not looking for compensation for that time, yeah.
And the additional 2,000 would be out of your personal expenses?
Mhm.
Have you talked to them about a scholarship or partial subsidization?
I have an interview with them on Wednesday,
Okay.
so I was hoping to kind of touch base with them about that then.
Okay, please bring that up first before you acknowledge putting
Yeah.
your own personal funds in there.
Sure, thank you.
Tell me about the inclusion piece that you've mentioned.
Yeah, so Carrier Park on this side of town, you guys know, is pretty much the only park that's all inclusive for people of all abilities. So I really want to bring more awareness to Challenger baseball and all of the good stuff going there. And also just, I don't think a lot of people are aware of the park and how inclusive it is, because we get phone calls like once a week asking about the playground, how long it's been there, stuff like that. Actually had somebody reach out to me from another school. Can't remember the name of the school right now, but they wanted to know how much the playground was and like where we got the equipment from, just because they were so impressed by it. So,
I'll add my little commercial. I attended the class in 96. at the time Chucky Holstein program was still directing it, and then folks like Judy Mauer were her assistants. To this day, Judy serves on my board of directors at the Onondaga Environmental Institute, and the contacts of the folks you meet are invaluable, so I would strongly urge the board to support this effort. The learning, the contacts, all of that is personally valuable, and I think it'll be valuable for as long as you are with the town of DeWitt. Hopefully, that's a long time
Yes.
as well. So you'll learn all sorts of things about government and relationships, business. It's all a good program. And Pam Brunet, I think, who's been the long-term director for probably the last decade or more, just stepped down, and I know they've hired somebody else, but I don't think it's been announced yet, so.
The person that I've been talking to is Robin Macaluso, yes, but I know there's one other, I can't remember the other name on the webpage.
I have a part-time Shelley.
Yes, that might be it.
So do you know if they announced the new?
Haven't announced it yet. They're doing candidate profiling, I think, getting that ready right now.
Any further? I'll entertain a motion.
I saw.
A second from Sarah. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, we had a 8:35 meeting, so we did run over on the water rates, public hearing. Ange?
Please take notice that pursuant to a resolution of the town board of this adopted August 14th, 2023, the town board will hold a public meeting at the town offices, 5400 Butternut Drive, and via Zoom on August 28th, 2023 at 8:35 a.m. to consider an increase to the town of DeWitt water and sprinkler rates. Information regarding the proposed rates may be viewed at the town clerk's office during regular business hours, and that was published in the Post Standard.
Okay, I'll give a brief summary. For the most part, our water costs are going up. We buy water from the city of Syracuse, we buy it from Aqua. They both recently posted increase in cost. We have a multi-million-dollar program in place to upgrade our system. We're looking to develop electronic monitoring system. We know we're talking about meter replacements, hydrant upgrades. And my one commercial on this is, despite the increase in water costs, we only bill our recipients twice a year. And Aqua bills 4 times a year. So with their administrative fee and the 4 quarterly bills a year, we're still buying and delivering Aqua water at lower cost than Aqua. So that I believe this rate increase will still be relatively competitive when we compare our costs to the surrounding water delivery systems such as Aqua and things. Doug, you got anything to add?
No, I mean, as we discussed, I put a rate schedule together and it's pretty much the 15% we talked about across the board.
I think the only issue I see just in the calculations, just on the minimum for the residential. Minimum doesn't match up with the rate, and I thought we were going with a minimum of 80. Rather than 81, just to make it easier on Angela's staff for the cash payments on that.
Okay. We probably should do the out of district at 122 would be my thought.
Yeah, 80 and 120 on this, yeah.
Yeah. I did catch that.
Got it.
For the folks who push this off to their annual tax bill, how are they going to be notified? Are we sending out individual letters to the residents, or the people are they're very hands off, which is fine. But I just don't want them to be surprised should they take a look. How would we notify folks?
I didn't have any intention of notifying anyone. I mean, if it would come in with the notice of the bill, so there is a lag in billing cycles. So we will notice with the upcoming bills that in your next bill, this rate increase will go into effect. So they'll receive that notice, everyone will see the
Okay, yeah.
notice of the bill. If they choose not to pay the bill, I'm not gonna spend another $10,000 noticing someone that's already delinquent on the bill.
Just for clarification, are these, so are we aiming to do these and start these in January?
Yes. That was my understanding. So that the remaining bill cycle would be contain a notice.
Yeah.
Have to coordinate that with that, to see how that comes into play, but I think that's what we did last time. Okay. Makes sense to me if I recall.
In the meeting.
All right, any other further discussion?
Okay, so you're all set.
I'll close the public hearing. Do you want to authorize this here tonight? Again, make it effective. Subsequent to the changes that Max has made, the 80 and the $120, the drop from $81 to 80. It's dropped from 120 to
Keep the math simple.
21.
121 and 120, yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Karen, a second from Sarah. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. Okay. Okay. Are you the gentleman for the abandonment of the road?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good morning.
Right.
My name is Jan Mastery and I prepared few documents for you guys to review. I'll pass them around. I'm not sure I am actually enough, so you may have to share the surveys, which.
We can share.
We won't fight over the document.
Okay. Survey.
Go ahead, mother.
All right, kid.
Here's the property in question.
Exactly what it says.
Survey. From front, rear and side yard photos of the dock of the property in question. Short on survey, so we just give you the
Build that penalty fine, that's part.
garage.
House is not even built there. Road is. I don't know how long the garage has been there.
I would say probably 40+ years. The owner of the property was Hillary Nugent. He had Nugent's 40 years ago when I first knew this gentleman. He had Nugent's Roofing and Siding Company. And he lived there and I think he operated, he had a little office there.
And they built in the easement?
He built right over the line. You can see it.
It's a good portion of the garage.
Yeah, he had a lot of nerve, I guess.
Got it.
So we own the adjacent property, if you look at the pictures, you'll see there's an apartment project that we own right adjacent to it. And our concern was to actually make sure that this property was going to be well cared for after the occupant had passed away. He was living there alone. His son was living there and he passed away. So his heirs sold the property to me. And our concern was that we keep it in good condition because it's adjacent. There was a property across the street that is in disrepair and always had problems. So again, our concern is to make sure that our little campus is well maintained and cared for. And I was just concerned because it's in disrepair. It's right now.
So you own the north part,
North Garden, yes, sir.
and then the property is there.
Right.
But what I didn't realize, I haven't been there in a long time and I wanted to come over and see this and I'll open it up to the board in a minute. That Heel Brook is a flooding issue.
Yeah.
And so we have never acted on it, but long on our list is to take areas of Teal Brook where we could and open it up and allow more room for flooding. Right, I mean, there was a young man maybe a decade ago that got caught in the current and was sucked through the underground portions. There was no access to them. And so as in many locations as possible, it's our wish that the Teal Brook get opened up. And we've tried to work with the city in the past at the park on Lillian, Norwood Park. That's inside the town of DeWitt, but it's owned by the city of Syracuse. So the city of Syracuse has the greatest influence on the control of Teal Brook. Again, my concern is that by giving you this, we lose the opportunity to daylight. I don't know that to be true. So I would not have, my personal vote would be, I would have no problem in turning this over to you, provided we're not cutting our nose to spite our face here, because at some point in time, I want to get to opening up Teal Brook. And for safety and also flooding purposes. I see that according to the survey here, it's running through the middle of your property. It's on the ground. They actually got.
It's open, it's an open brook, as you said, and you're right, maybe 15, 20 years ago, there was a little girl playing there and she fell into it and she lost her life. And the water does back up all the way to Teal Ave. I own some property on Teal Ave. And I always was wondering why the county or the city didn't open up. But I guess they closed down the gates to allow the water to pass into Onondaga Lake because it overspilled.
But Teal Brook flows into the South Branch of Lake Creek and then goes down to the lake. And so I know we've got 16 sites identified on the Lake Creek system where we think we offset some flooding. But we haven't gone into Teal Brook. And again, I'm willing to bring back to the board a recommendation on this. And I'm gonna want Doug and Rock to look at this with me, weigh in on whether or not this could be a potential site. A lot of times it could be so small that there would be such an insignificant amount of water that will store be meaningless. So then again, we could give it to. And then the other option is if there's we could give it to you as well if you're willing to either modify the easement or allow us to do a little bit of configuration on the creek so that we could store more water. So there, it's not a yes or no, right? There's There's a willingness to work with you on this.
Great.
If we can do something constructive or to improve the creek at that location. That would all be part of the grant.
You're planning on leaving the house the way it is?
Pardon me?
You're leaving the house and graduators?
Well, we just want to, we'll probably improve the whole place because we're just going to rent it,
Right.
but it's not in rentable condition right now. I want to improve it, but my concern is I don't want to get into a position where we're putting considerable dollars in the necessary improvements only to have the town say, as Ed just mentioned, well, we need the property and then lose out on the capital improvements. So, you know, I need a little bit more direction. It's the appropriate time.
In the next 2 weeks, I'll visit the site with the engineer and the highway superintendent. If you want, we can let you know when we're coming.
Sure. I'll be happy to meet you over there and do a walkthrough with you.
Site. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
I do have just not a question. So this relating to Crossbow Drive. So when we released the Crossbow part of the roadway there, we sold it to the developer. What's the difference between that and this, where we wouldn't be looking to sell the street for a nominal amount of money?
Well, it's possible we could be. At this point in time, I'm thinking there's an exchange of some sort in place, right? But what was the on Crossbow?
The amount is sold for $7,000.
$7,000.
What would this be?
Al says maybe a couple grand.
Yeah, right now our assessor says this is about $2,000 in value to us, so. In a flat out delivery of the easement, that'd probably be a price tag. Okay.
But I think it makes, as you said, if there was some exchange of services with some redesign or something with some flood management, that also makes sense.
Right.
I'm all for the flood management because when that creek does get to a certain level, it's that head wall. Very rarely, but it has happened. What happens is the storm sewers, the sanitaries are such that it actually causes backup in our apartments next door. So we've flooded quite a few times in the lower level of units because there's just too much water. It's backing right up in the system. So the idea that you put forth is favorable to me as well, to have some type of reservoir to be able to take more water. It's someplace. I don't know if this is the place for it, but
The danger is that the expectation would be that we could solve all those problems, right? But we can help. I use the word mitigate, right? It may take a 2-inch rain and cause problems to them. And you can think and accommodate that 2-inch rain in the future. And doesn't say a 3-inch rain or 4-inch rain. Well, it still cause problems. Part of the issues going forward with these types of problems are the rains are getting more intense and greater volume of water. So we know we're gonna have problems the way it is right now. Sure, for sure. Yeah, you know, it's gonna get worse.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great day.
We go through with the senior star now and people wait for.
I guess we do gotta get out.
No, but I was gonna say, he's gonna do its whole assessor's report, so we do that. The next item.
Oh, yeah, but I thought he was gonna give us his opinion on senior assessment. Yeah. He's gonna grab Al. Is there other quick one on the agenda here?
Fireworks?
Sure, yes. Fireworks Onondaga County Country Club. I'll entertain a motion to authorize. Joe, second from Jack. Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Which one's carried?
And you still have the folks, in the audience who haven't spoken yet.
Yes, they're waiting for the seniors. It shouldn't be too long. I know the board is looking to adjust the schedule for the Yom Kippur holiday. It's also September 11th, correct?
Yes.
The 25th.
September 25th starts. the
11th, we
night
already did.
before.
The 11th, we did
The
everything.
11th, we're doing the 8:30.
Early mornings.
Oh,
And I'm ready to see that.
The 11th, we're doing 8:30 town board, 6 o'clock, 9/11.
okay, and so
So the next board meeting would be the 25th, which is Yom Kippur. What, do we want to do that in the evening or in the morning or?
Have a day over. Skip it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we should.
Skip it.
It's not going to work because it starts the night before.
okay. Do you want to skip the meeting out, right? And then if something comes up that's an
Then have a special
emergency, then we have a special meeting, or do you want to reschedule for some time later that week?
Well, my concern is if we were to skip it and then the next traditional meeting would be Monday, October 9th, that's Columbus Day.
Day, so we have two in a row.
So 2 in a row, so we probably need to reschedule it to a different day.
You want to schedule it right in the middle of this day and but do
Just wanna do it
October
on the
second,
Second,
and then skip both of those?
that could make sense.
Do it night, Monday night.
You do the Monday
Second.
night on October second. And if something arises in any one of
We can
those
do
3
the
week
emergency
windows,
meeting.
we'll end up having a special board.
Okay.
That's good. How about for that?
So Monday, October 2nd will be our first traditional 6 PM meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe that is the budget, the preliminary budget coming through next on the 11th, because I think the deadline was before the 25th anyway. I think.
I will not be here on the 11th.
Okay, oh yeah, you're gonna be in.
See you down in New York.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sure.
Joe's got it down.
My wife is a reader. So we'll be in the city.
So do we have October 2nd at 6?
6, correct.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to cancel the Monday, Monday, September
September 25th.
25th meeting and the Monday, October 9th meeting.
Which we are moving.
Well, I'll do it 2 resolutions.
All right,
I have a
yes.
motion from Joe, and a second from Karen. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. I'll entertain a motion from Joe and a second from Karen to schedule a town board meeting for October 2nd at 6 P M. Motion from Joe and a second from Karen again.
Yes.
Yep.
They get the scheduling. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
So it'll be
Okay.
October 2nd and then the 3rd, if we stick to the usual. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Did we fail to do a resolution to reschedule at the regular time, or was that part of the
That last.
summer? I thought it was part of the summer.
Part of the summer schedule.
Right.
Yeah, we're just back to the regular.
Okay, so it automatically comes back to the second and fourth Monday of the month at 6 P M.
Starting.
Yeah. Starting. But the whole. Actually, it's not gonna start now
September's gonna be in.
until October 23rd.
October 23rd.
October.
First.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we've already readjusted the schedule for the first 3 meetings of the fall.
Good year.
All right, I just saw Al. Peter, did you have something?
I did. I'm given that there's a free flow in the proceedings. I believe everybody got a copy of the resume of an Amanda Fitzsimmons, who I would like to hire into our department to replace Brandon Inman. I just need your blessing. Carrie wants to take her on September the 11th, and given the discussion that just took place, I need to be able to let them know.
Yeah, I apologize for making you stand here.
No, that's okay. That's all right.
I forgot about that and it's not on.
It's not from you. No, I looked, so.
Any discussion? A motion from Joe. Second from Max. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Thank you.
Abstain. Carried. Okay, our start date, we're gonna get a date, work out with the comptrollers.
Yeah, September the 11th.
Okay.
Good luck. Thanks.
Thank you.
I don't know where I went.
I just saw Al.
I know he was here.
We lost.
It's nervous about the assessments. He went back upstairs.
He's on his way back right now.
Here he comes. How Al keeps his weight down.
Maybe it's in a minute. Very
Hey, Al. Al, I'm gonna have you talk about the senior exemption first.
Okay.
And you can do your presentation. But we've got a couple of residents here that showed up for the senior exemption
kids.
and
So the county has gone to the full limit for the senior exemption. They moved to do that. So it's putting this back to you guys. JD
All right, I'm listening.
JD has not contacted me with anything that they're doing yet, so I'm not sure where they're going. ESM is the end of this month, gonna be their next meeting, so they haven't made a decision yet either.
Well, they're not meeting the end of this month, they're meeting September.
Oh, September, I'm sorry, yes.
27.
Yeah, that's their next meeting. So we won't do anything until then. I mean, I recommend that it moves. How much it moves is going to depend on where you guys think it should be landing. Like I said in my last report, I figured it was going to be about halfway, but I think that with the county moving at this point to the full limit, I think that a lot of the towns are going to move to that full limit.
Some have already, correct?
Yes, they have.
Already.
Salina and Manlius moved for last year, and that's what I did base some of the stuff in my report that I sent out last week on that, was that they did move about on the average about 60% is what they went up. Their numbers, as far as the number of exemptions, didn't quite move that much, but the value of it did. I figured that's probably closer to 2/3 of what they're gonna see overall. I think that the first year, we're gonna get about 2/3 of the people they're gonna get, and then the rest of the third are gonna trickle in over the next couple of years. I figured that probably be somewhere between, where we have just under 400 seniors on the exemption at this point. That's about $21 million of exempt value. I figure we're gonna probably see another 20 to 30 million of exempt value that we would lose from the roll that would be, distributed back out to the other residents.
Do you have an estimate for how much that, say it was 30 million? If that goes back onto the rolls, how much or comes off the rolls, how much does that increase other rates by, per thousand?
The only rate it's gonna affect for us is the town. The county's already done it, so it's already gonna adjust their rate. And I don't really get into the tax rates and all that, so I don't have, but I know that the county was looking at pennies as far as what it's gonna really, we have, and it'll be in my annual report, the town, the value of the town at this point is about 3.8 billion. So if we're gonna redistribute back out another 20 to 30 million, it is really gonna be very insignificant, but it is gonna be there.
I did some back of the envelope calculations and I was gonna put them together and I kind of said, oh my God, this looks worse than the assessments calculations that I did, and everybody's eyes just kind of glossed over when I did the assessments, but I used very conservative numbers. I said a $40 million estimate with only a $3 billion total assessment. I thought it was closer to 3.5. Well, up 300,000 just because
So you did.
so anyways, I used real conservative numbers, and the impact that I thought we were gonna have on $100,000 house is gonna be about $20. So.
Okay.
It would go up for, again, so a $200,000 house would be 40 and. You know, I used a 40% or 60% residential, 40% commercial and industry number to come up with that number. So I was teasing Jack before the meeting. I said I was ready to support this based on those numbers. $500,000 house is gonna go up about $100.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is raising
And that's conservative.
the limit is gonna pull the higher value homes into it, and it's a percentage based exemption, so. If you're getting a 50,000 or 50% exemption on $100,000 house, it's gonna be much different than a $400,000 house.
And just to be clear, the $100 is annually, not monthly.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the annual tax bill. And that's the town portion. And again, my numbers, one of the reasons I didn't present them is they're so flawed. In the sense that you're working with a number with an assumption, and there's so many variables in that. But I tried to generate, that was the worst case scenario.
Yeah, I tried to push most of my numbers a little bit to the higher end because there's so many what ifs in it that I can't see it until after it happens. Like I said, I tried to base a lot of it off of Manlius and Salina. This year, I can see at least where their numbers went from the year before to the first year of being in it.
We're still in a holding pattern over the runway because of the school districts. Is that correct?
We're separate from them though. I mean, we're deciding just for our town.
I understand that, but it's still the leverage that they will factor in at some point,
Only for their school bills.
only for their school
It's
bills.
not them.
That's,
And
so it is completely separate, which I know that it is, but I keep screaming it for the record. I want to make sure that the school bill is distinct from this.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, they will decide on their own, but the county's already done it. So as far as the county town bill, it's already half being affected by the county doing it.
All right.
Yeah, so
Al, does it complicate your processes or in your office if the town were to pass a different scale than the county? Or is this basically the same?
That's gonna be more work, because you have to put in all the exceptions separately.
Okay, so if we do the same thing as the county does, it's easier for your department?
Yes, but that shouldn't be a factor in, but it should be what you guys think it should be in. We do these like that anyway, in the school district, I hope it's not gonna take that into account. Now, they have to look at what they're doing for their senior residents.
The Manlius code, this is the full limit we're talking about, it's a 58,399 schedule.
Yes,
If I theoretically, we were to take this Manlius, that's what you'd recommend, the same limits?
yeah, Manly and Salina both went to the top limit last year.
Thanks.
The only. Sorry, Jack.
Go ahead.
The only thing there are a couple of, and I don't have all my notes because I thought this was gonna be a night meeting, and I apologize for that. But with them changing the way that they were figuring the income. There's an option in there, and I would like the town to consider the option of pulling in the full taxable social security value. Because the way that we used to use just straight income for this exemption, and the governor has changed how we do it. They're gonna make it more like the STAR, which is going to pull a lot more people into it, because that's just based off of your taxable income. So that leaves out a lot of your, leaves out all your untaxed social security and pensions and dividends and that kind of thing. But we do have an option to pull back in the full social security, and I think that should be an option. The county did this, and I think that should be an option that the town looks at also.
Yes, the county chose to use the full just income.
Well, they chose to pull in the whole of the social security. We can't just figure out the income in.
But I thought I read in the papers that it was the IRAs as well.
The IRAs have always been out, but
But the newspaper said that the county included the IRAs.
the IRA, not the taxable, say the interest on it, we can pull in.
It's not counting your taxes, but it's still counting as income for this purpose.
Yeah, that was.
Taxable and untaxable, so VA benefits, all of
VA has always been a separate thing. We've never included
Okay.
that.
So it's. Okay, and will that, if we start looking at this traditionally untaxable income, is it going to be added to the known taxable income and then we will determine if the person is qualified? Or do they get qualified based on their untaxed income and then we figure out what their number is based on the combination?
They'll get qualified based on the total income. So it'll be their adjusted gross, but then adding back in what the non-taxable social security and that was.
And that line's the 58,000 line.
Yes.
So that'll actually lower the number of
Yeah.
eligible.
Yes, because there's so many people that qualified for the enhanced star that if we figured it the old way for the senior, they wouldn't qualify. But if we figure it's a new way, then they're gonna qualify. So it's gonna pull in a lot more people. So I'm just trying to mitigate some of the people that really have a lot of assets. This will pull a few of them back out.
This is in line with what the county's doing.
This is absolutely, I'm trying to mimic what the county did as close as they can, because they went and tried to, put all the factors in and figure out exactly how to get it closer to what it is now. It's supposed to be a low income senior exemption, not just an over 65 exemption, like the enhanced star.
Okay. So what's the pleasure of the board?
I want to make a motion
Two.
to do what the county is doing to increase the senior exemption. Currently it's at 29,000 to 37,400. To increase it to the new limits, which are from 50,000 to 58,400.
I so second.
You have a second?
Yes, please.
Okay, a second. Any further discussion?
So the idea is to mimic the county's program, what they passed. Exactly.
Yes.
My suggestion.
If you pass it, I'll have a new law drafted, go to our code, and we'll do that next meeting.
Okay,
So
so we're just
the-
I was gonna say, is it-
Yeah, it's a law, right?
Do a
It's
resolution?
done by board resolution, so the board will make a resolution to change the schedule that's in 170-7 of our code. I may have to talk to Al about these other conditions, I gotta look at the county law too.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had my notes.
I'll draft the final law, so that the board can resolve to change the schedule, I'll just send everyone a copy when it's done. Send it out.
Or, yeah, I mean,
You see a resolution to change the schedule to what the county has, plus the other conditions that the county imposes,
And I assume it'll have to be a separate resolution, but the disability with limited income has always mimicked the senior exemption. The county did move that along with the senior too, but I assume since it's technically a different law, it will have to be.
it's our code too.
Yes.
Same limit.
so do you advise this just all get done when the paperwork's ready? Again, I know Jack's anxious, but it's gonna get done and it doesn't matter whether it's done now or in September, because it doesn't go into effect until 2024. So I think we all agree it's gonna get done.
I'd like to have it done in the fall just for the fact of getting as much of the,
Paperwork done.
well, as much of the news out to everybody to, the limits are really moving and they have to get exemptions in before March 1st because that's my cutoff.
Well, I think,
And I'm thinking about getting the law drafted sooner.
well,
rather
that drags me into the next one, the firefighters exemption.
Yes.
We need paperwork for that as well too.
I do have one more question though.
Yeah, please.
This goes back to the new understanding that we're going to be looking at traditionally non-taxable income. People are probably going to get removed then from this.
No, because that's how we've always figured it, is by
So
the.
their grandfather
We-
claused in and any.
No, it's not a grandfather clause. That's how we figured it before. So when we figured it before, we totally ignored the adjusted gross. We went through line by line and picked out the full value of everything. So they've always been, we've always figured in their full non-taxable. So the full social security, if you get $25,000 in social security and only 10,000 is taxable, we've always figured that 25. This is how it's always been.
It's no, but I guess my question, it sounds like we're bringing in more new line items though. Where am I missing this conversation?
So so the state in passing the new law said you can leave more of it out. And we're just not going that way. We're just keeping what we had.
Oh, we are already considering all of these.
We already consider all that non-taxable.
Okay, that's great.
Increasing the limits.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. So that's what we're going.
Yeah, they passed a new law that the governor put the other part of it in the budget, so it was kind of coming at us from two sides.
And we also have the Eagle Bulletin, he can report.
What's that?
Jason's in the back and report, we're just working on it.
Okay. So again, I don't have a problem with two resolutions.
I think it should
But
be.
this one's kind of a ceremonial one, I guess, if you want to call it.
Well, if it's going to be ceremonial, we don't say mimic, we say emulate. Okay?
So let's vote.
Oh, yeah, I seconded your motion, Jack, and I,
Edward,
Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried, but I do say, it's got to bring these back in concert with the other exemptions. So that leads to my question about the firefighters exemption, which is also on the agenda.
Yep, so the firefighters exemption, they've changed this past year. So there used to be, it was a 10%, but it really had a $3,000 cap on it, so it was a very minimal exemption. They've removed the $3,000 cap on it, so you can get the firefighters. As of, I believe that the town had it as 5 years of service, and the county just passed a resolution to bring it down to 2 years of service before they qualify for this exemption. It's going to be a 10% exemption off of the assessed value of the house. So the exemption that the town currently has will go through to the end of 2025. At that point, that exemption is no longer a valid exemption. We either drop the exemption altogether or go with this new one. Most of the towns and the county has already done it. They're moving just to.
But there's still quite a bit of, but from what I've seen, the towns, county, everybody seems to be doing the firefighters differently in that there's a lot of different, like you don't have to go to 2 years. You could go to 10 years for the amount of time it takes to qualify for it.
We can make the amount of time qualifying whatever we want. I believe that we're at 5 years now. There's only like 42 or 43 firefighters exemptions that we have in the town. So it's really minimal at this point. We may get a few more because they used to get a better exemption off of their tax return that they filed under that. They got a better deduction off of that.
you have all three fire departments included in the
Yes.
42 or so?
Yep.
Okay, so do any of the people that work in Jamesville or DeWitt Fire Department get paid? Are they paid people? Because in East Syracuse, they're not paid.
I don't know what the fire departments, if they get paid or not. This is supposed to be for volunteers. It's self-reporting.
Volunteer, if it's a firefighter's on, okay. So that's.
Yeah, but I don't, it's a gray area, not a black and white. There's a lot of individuals that are paid and also volunteer, right? So they might have set hours. They respond during those hours. They might come out on a Saturday night as well as a volunteer. And so there are, but
I would say, I think this is something we definitely need to do, as this one has even a longer time frame for us to get through. I think it makes sense to evaluate exactly, who it applies to the volunteer years, examine more what other places are doing. And I mean, I think we definitely, again, want to continue some sort of exemption, just.
Yeah, what was the situation where it was one or the other and the firefighters chose? The reason we have a very low number of firefighter exemptions is in part because there's another
They used to
exemption.
get an exemption off of their income tax return. And that really was a better, monetary wise, an exemption for them. They got more out of that. With the $3,000 cap, this was really like a $40 or $50 exemption. They could get more from their.
So it was an either or.
Yes, they couldn't.
Couldn't take a property exemption if you were taking an income tax.
Yeah, and they could get, $200 to $300 on that one. Like I said, this was a $40 to $50 exemption. That'll change a bit with removing the $3,000 cap.
But it's still either or.
It'll still be an either or. Yes.
And in most cases, the income tax exemption is greater than.
Yeah, this will put them
Came in
closer.
and applied to you, you would be able to look at the numbers and say, gee, it'd be wiser for you to go the income tax.
I could give them an estimate of what our exemption would be. I don't have their income tax return, so they.
Right. But you can ask the question.
Yeah.
Again, that's my understanding of why, one of the reasons why we have really. All right, anything else on the exemptions? Otherwise, we're gonna move to.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, please.
Currently, I believe, even we were talking about social security, like $25,000 in social security, and if they take 2,000 out for Medicare or whatever, on your 1040, you're saying we go to the 25,000, okay? What about 401ks? Currently, you don't you include 401k distributions, but not IRA distributions. Is that gonna be, you're gonna carry that over to this?
It'll depend more, like I said, the governor changed the way we're doing it, so it's gonna be more of, we're gonna look at your adjusted gross and then add back in social security. I don't know that we're gonna be able to add 401k in. I'm gonna have to think exactly where the governor words it, but I don't believe that it's gonna count. It's gonna be mainly your adjusted gross plus any untaxed social security and IRA interest.
I don't know what that means, the IRA interest dividend.
Any interest you get off of it, so we can't tax the distribution of the money,
Oh, okay.
but it's in an account gaining interest in it. The interest we can add back.
But you don't have visibility.
No, but I will request it.
So you don't count IRA money today?
No, the distributions, no, we do not count. It's always been like that. though.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
If you drive a fire truck, even better deal.
I know.
Trucks next door to you.
Yeah. Annual report. But you did an excellent job. Thank you.
Thanks. I don't know how much of this you really want me to go through. So just a quick summary. The town, this past year, this was our 2022 year. So the town has 11,450 parcels. I broke them down by the numbers here for the basically in the tax code, in the property class codes, there's the 100s, which are agricultural, 200s are residential, 3 is vacant, 4 is commercial, and it goes on like that. So we are mainly a residential. We have that, but we do also have the most commercial properties of any town in the county. Actually, we have more than any 2 counties combined. We have 3 people in the office and we work full time. We all do everything in the office. I will skip, I think I don't know if you guys really want the job descriptions. I've gone through these before. But basically, most of our duties are year round. So we don't have essentially just a downtime where we're not doing it. Most of these are year round.
Page are you on now? So I have in front of me.
So I skipped the job descriptions. I'm gonna be on, I didn't have on my pages, probably 5.
Okay.
So. Out of all the parcels, we have 235 special franchise railroads and utility properties. These are not properties that are necessarily have a tax number. A lot of them, the best special franchise and utilities are the power lines, the cell towers and stuff like that, that aren't really technically on it. The state gives me those. Aside from those, we have 98 nonprofit exemptions, 108 veteran disabilities, 18 clergy. Last year, we had 378 senior citizens, 34 disability, 29 45B commercial properties exemptions, 7 mans, 4 mobile home parks, and 10 pilot programs. These are the exemptions that we have to process every year. We send out renewal forms for all these. Everything has to be processed. They've got a breakdown so that you guys could see exactly what the exemptions are throughout the entire town in the spreadsheets. I don't know if anybody has any questions on any of the kinds of exemptions. I know that my spreadsheets are kind of vague because I look at them all the time and I know exactly what they are.
Is there any significant changes in any of the categories from year over year?
What do you mean changes to the?
From the exemptions, were there any outliers that caught your attention from say last year to this year and doing your annual review for changes? I assume they're pretty steady.
They're pretty steady.
Yeah.
Most of the changes, honestly, I'll get from the county. when we have stuff in certain properties, like with the airport and some of those things, they're wholly exempt, but there's so many different categories of wholly exempt. Some of them include certain special franchises like your water districts, your drainage districts and all that. Some of the properties don't. So usually the main changes are going to be going between the wholly exempt as far as which ones we're supposed to be including in the special districts or not. Mostly I'm working with Don with those, and you know, he'll send me something and say, hey, I think you gotta look at these and sort these ones out, make sure they're in the right spot.
Along those lines, I haven't checked in a long time. We have the ability to tax any non-transportation related uses at the airport. So those parcels or sections of the airport that pertain to public transportation, such as the parking garage and the runways, radar and all that are tax exempt. But a UPS, FedEx, you know,
They're the hangars and such.
Private.
Our
Yeah.
I don't know if you get the filing from the county in a form that makes it easy for you to tell whether they're taxable or not. But that might be something we want to review.
I still have the old exec air properties that are on the corner of Town Line and Malden.
In Malloy,
We still have those being taxed. The airport has honestly been for the last couple of years telling me that exec air went out, but I think they're re-renting to somebody else. I have left them on as taxable parcels. The airport does not want them taxed because technically we only have the main parcel and they're all included in the main parcel. I have to make a sub parcel for just those buildings. The airport does not want to pay for them. They're not technically suing us yet, but they have filed grievances for the last 2 years. They haven't filed a cert, but they're doing the same thing to Salina. So I have been working with Salina and trying to, because Salina owns the whole row of buildings along Malden Road that are all rented out, and they're of the same stance that I am, that these are taxable buildings. They've always been taxable buildings as long as you are leasing them out.
right? Or non-air transportation, public transportation.
Yes, for the public use.
Private transportation.
As far as everything else, they will, even the houses that they bought down on Kinney Road, they absolutely claim those as part of the airport, part of the transportation. And most of them were included in the pilot that was signed back in 2009 or 10.
Right.
So we can't tax them in the sense that they do it, but everything that they buy from then on, they do automatically try and roll right into that.
Yeah, well, anything again, it's not, and if you need me to testify, because I was involved in the negotiation and signed that original agreement. Things like the CNS building. They're in Salina, but that's taxable. That's a private entity on airport property. So the hangars, UPS, FedEx.
That's all Salina, but the only thing we have is that that group of buildings that was exec air. We have the car rentals right up near the tower, the Hertz and that kind of stuff. That's all still on a taxable status. And the hotel, which isn't really a hotel anymore, but they were supposed to let me tour it. Then I mentioned going to the entire airport. They stopped talking to me, so I didn't want to do that.
All right, well, yeah.
That's gonna come down because I do believe that the hotel is either gonna be, it's not usable at this point and it's gonna be torn down probably.
Yeah,
But that is still a taxable parcel until they let me in and see it.
okay. Great, thank you. And any help you need, let me know. Okay. Sorry to. You're right.
Oh, no. Like I said, I was very unprepared because it was a night meeting and I.
She's seen a look in his eyes when I came up there.
Different time zone in West Monroe there, different time zone in West Monroe.
I forgot you guys were doing morning meetings. I was gonna be here at 6 o'clock tonight. I was gonna finalize my notes for my thing today.
Got your evening back.
Yeah. So as far as the assessment changes, the last couple of years have been quite challenging. We've gone through quite a bit of change in those. And I just did a little quick spreadsheet to show you kind of where the numbers are going as far as the informal meetings that I do before we hit the final. I do these from the time I send the letters out until a couple of days before the final grievance starts, so that I can get as many people through there. And you can see that in 19, we did 152. That was what I would have considered a heavy year up to that point. 20 was a very light year. The houses weren't moving and nobody wanted to come out for COVID because this was right in May when nobody knew what was going on yet. I only had 47. And 2021, I had 159. It was back up to a regular heavy year. And then 2022, last year, I did 240 informal meetings. And I have about a month to do those. So that's pretty much a 15 minutes all day long, taking a break for lunch. The grievances, you can see obviously increased with the same thing. Did 190, 130, 183, and 388 last year. Tertiaries stay pretty steady because those are ongoing. Me and Matt are trying to get that number down as much as we possibly can.
How many do you have outstanding?
Pardon?
How many do you have outstanding?
I have 45, but this is for 22s, and that's including, I mean, Hanson's half of that. Because they're over 20.
Oh, okay, that's good.
And then,
But I was surprised that because everything went up, but the certiorari stayed relatively constant.
well, the commercial ones knew that they were moving. I was surprised, honestly, last year and this year that I have not received more. Because I've got them all in for this year and it's gonna stay kind of steady. We're gonna settle a couple and I'm gonna get a couple of new ones
You had a
and
good amount discontinued too, where they just gave up.
Mhm.
You had a couple discontinued too, where they just say it's not.
yeah,
it's not-
I mean, I think some of them realize that at this point, they're low.
Some realize that they're under assessed one, yeah.
The small claims, the same thing. It started to bump up for when we hit it. I did 2, 1, 1, and 6 last year. I'm gonna probably have about 3 or 4 this year. As far as the values in the town. For well, the parcel count went up. 15 parcels from 2020 to 2022. I just did a breakdown. I don't know if you really need this, but it's like I said, the 100s, the 200 and 300 as far as the property classes, I did a breakdown of what the value is in each property class. And obviously, even though we're mostly residential, it's not too far between the residential and the commercial really are. Like I stated before, the width is kind of a complex town because we have so much commercial as compared to any of the other towns in the county.
Can I ask, where did the 15 additional parcels come from? We're essentially built out, so I'm curious how we found 15 of them.
Any splits, so.
Okay.
If there's a split, like the Dingy Farm up on Woodchuck Hill Road, that split up into 3 parcels and then a year later, one of those parcels split into 2 parcels,
Okay,
so.
great.
We get a few and it's gone up and down. It's honestly. It's been up or down, plus or minus 20 since I started here in 2005, so. They don't go far, but some years I can say, hey, we got a lot more parcels, and some years we lose some. And then I just did a quick breakdown of Comptroller's office asks me every year for the top 10 taxable in the town. Hasn't, doesn't change a lot, but the National Grid is something that's done through the state, so they give me those numbers. Everything else, I kind of try and keep in line. But the biggest thing going up this year is the Bristol property, which sold the Latte Biologics. And then just because we've had such large increases, I did a quick breakdown of the taxable, the assessed value in the town throughout the last 4 years. And you can see that it has significantly increased. The average probably around, between 20 and 50 million a year. Into 2022, did go up 275 million. Past that this year. This just gives you the totals. 2022, the total town value was $3.5 billion. Breakdown of that. And if there's any other numbers that you guys want that I'm missing, because I don't really know what you guys want me to put in these reports, I would love to hear back if there's something that you want to hear from me.
And I thought it was excellent. I used some of your numbers in my crazy calculations.
Commission rather than omission, so. When you get an overwhelming report like this, it's excellent.
Some of those big parcels either, are subject to subdivision for further redevelopment, the Thompson Road properties are so large. There's potential there for redevelopment, so the commercial properties are something that I think we're gonna try to look at some of the development opportunities. I know Doug and I got some projects that hopefully will come back and will bring some return for people.
And sometimes we lose parcels due to like that. If they come in and their parcel is, and their buildings are spread over 2 lots, it's time to make them combine those, and then we'll lose parcels in those kind of years, because we have that in the code now where you can't build over 2 separate lots.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you again, Al. We'll look forward to working with you through these exemptions.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rob.
Enjoy your evening. Okay. Sir. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, those Waring Road sidewalks.
Sorry. Number 7, authorizing bids. Sarah.
Doug, really, I'm just hoping for an update, and then similarly on this topic, if we could get a public or a community, I don't know if it's hearing, but just put something formal on the agenda. The community over there would like the town to, but now that it's approved, have a meeting for them to come and just ask questions.
My personal opinion is, I know we're authorizing the bid. When we have the numbers, we'll have the actual cost. Right, so that sometime this fall, if we go to bid now, it's gonna take a month or 6 weeks before you make a decision on the bid.
Okay.
It's likely sometime in October.
So to have basically a meeting around the time we're accepting is
The bids, yeah.
Accepting, meaning reviewing. Do we need to be able to use the same process that we do with all of our bids?
Correct. So it would go to bid. The bid committee, would look at that. It's likely that the resulting recommended award would be the low cost. It's only in extenuating circumstances that our engineer would come to us and say, this is the lowest cost, but we advise for these reasons not to award. Because the numbers used in the bid aren't real. They've got a cost in here for concrete or whatever. It's way below what it should be, and we know for a fact that it's gonna cost more than this bidder is made a bid for, or we've had a terrible record with this bidder, they're unreliable, they don't carry insurance, or there's lawsuits against them, or blah, blah, blah. So, but those instances are very rare, so it's most likely we'll go to bid. Doug will come back to us with Jack and others that are reviewing it, REC, and they'll say, yes, this is a qualified contractor, these are the costs, we recommend the award. And we should include the public at that time and say, here's what's gonna happen, and then you have a contractor that can tell us the schedule. So not only will we just be meeting with the residents, but you'll be able to tell them when it's gonna happen, that those kinds of details. Because otherwise you bring them in and say, yeah, we're gonna go forward. We can't tell you when, we can't tell you, right? We're paying for it with the Biden money, so it's at no cost to them. But in terms of the scheduling and mechanics and flow of the project, we'll have that kind of information.
Where is the bid, Doug? Has it been drawn up yet, or
Thanks, Ed.
what status is it with in terms of going out being released?
And we got all the survey data last week, so this week we hope to put the bid documents together. So it should be a cut and paste off other sidewalk projects we've done.
Yep.
So I'm anticipating that next week we should have documents ready to bid.
Excellent.
And Max and I did speak, and up near the school.
Yep.
We're going to work on a complete project, so we'll have a crosswalk going across
Great.
into the school property. And
Yeah.
we'll we'll hold that out as a separate line item. And we'll have two line items in the bid. And we'll know what the costs are, so that, you know. When we get to that point, we can go to the school and say, here's what we've got. And competitively bid it. The other thing is, he didn't send it to me, but the surveyor notes that when he went out and did the survey last week, he also flew his drone. So if there's anything we want from his drone in a presentation,
Oh, great.
we could get that. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know if it's a positive or a negative, but I'll see if he can send me that and I'll see if I can share it with everybody.
That might be something you show at the public information meeting, couple minutes and people see the front lawns. With the house.
Yeah, we like.
I'd be sitting there saying, oh, no, my house needs painting.
Time for a roof. And then we can anticipate the same process for the Kinney Street one once we begin. Okay, excellent. Are we able to let, for example, Natalie, the community member that kind of led this force over at Waring? They are curious about the additional JD add-on. Are we in a position where we can talk publicly outside of this meeting and just let them know that the JD will be finishing that part?
Subject to reviewing the costs.
Fair. Okay.
Peter Smith said, yes, he's interested. Yes, they'd be willing to cover the part on their end, but
Yep.
depending on cost, no guarantee.
When we're ready to pay for.
Okay.
Our discussion is gonna be the easiest to put it all in one contract.
Yes, but so they, in the conversation with Peter Smith, they were appreciative of us putting it all in one contract, one bid, us taking care of the construction, and they would reimburse for the part that was subject to cost on that side.
It's probably a cost savings to them. It's efficient to us because they're getting the professional services.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe
Same
we
time,
should
you're.
present it that way, independent without town support, with town support. Great. And this is more of an informal, but I'm hoping to make it formal. Doug, transition, unless there's more questions for sidewalks. I'm just roll here.
We need to, we're gonna authorize to go out to bid on it.
Yes,
So-
Yes.
Oh,
Entertain a motion from Sarah,
I so
second from Max. Authorize Miller Engineers to go to bid, prepare the bid. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. Guys will work with Jack to get that in and reviewed. The review process is always done in concert with engine. That'll most likely, my guess is we're at beginning of September here, we got out, it'll be mid-October.
Yeah.
At a point where it comes. Hey, what was the next one, sir?
Sewers.
Yeah.
We've had a few informal discussions. I don't know how to make it formal, if you will, so that it does continue to move forward with the remaining pockets of residents that are on septic. Burning them.
What I still would like to do is a townwide sewer district, just like we have a townwide water
Sure.
district, a townwide lighting district, a townwide sidewalk district. If we set up a large district, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's always been my understanding that sewers and water projects and things of this nature are scale dependent. And so to take a street like Linden, Lynn Acres or Maple or any of the locations that we do not have sewers and under New York state law, only the service area currently set up a district and then the district is to cover those costs. So it's such a large cost for such a small number of homeowners that it's been preclusive. We've never gone forward with sewers in those areas because you're spending millions of dollars and spreading it over dozens of houses. So a townwide district, the hope is that for pennies, you spread those costs out. So if a couple of cents get applied to the district cost, you can cover the large costs of the additional things. And that's what we do with our water projects right now. We have a townwide water district, and when we have to go in and replace a water pipe, everybody's paying a little bit. And it's somewhat unnoticeable. If we forced the street that was only receiving the pipe to pay for it, we'd be a problem.
So the only issue, I think, where it comes in with this area is that because the septics are failing,
Yep.
they're in for a cost one way or the other. And I think it might actually be economical for those three streets together to just do it. And
I've talked to informally, just asking the houses that I know, they're willing to accept the initial hookups and everything required to get them onto sewer versus continuously having to have they'd rather be on sewer and absorb that cost over the long term if the town can bond for it versus continuously having to worry about their septics.
I don't know the specifics right now. I know there are sewers in the area. So we're talking runs into certain streets, and if they're close enough, that makes sense. If they're far away, we're talking small numbers and large distance. So Doug, we can ask Doug, let's authorize Doug to study the situation right now and bring us back a recommendation.
I think that's.
Because we know if we go to townwide sewer district, it's gonna be 2 months before we have a law in place, right?
At least that, the referendums and everything.
It might take a lot, that's the issue. I think this
Do
is.
we have to do a referendum? How come we never did a referendum on it? It's a permissive referendum.
Yeah.
Which means someone has to object and go get signatures. to
Get
sign.
petition.
So it's.
Which actually, that just happened and
It's
interesting.
It's a 2 month, yeah, but it's a 2 month process, and we've done it forever, and I've never had anybody challenge. I mean, I find it highly unlikely someone's gonna oppose the establishment of a townwide sewer district. Maybe I'm misinterpreting.
Like you say, Kolchewski used to come in under a penny.
Yeah, when we did 10,000 permissive referendums, right? I mean,
Less than a penny.
yeah, on infrastructure, rarely have we ever seen. I'm surprised, what happened in Manlius that they opposed?
No, there was some other issue, but they just had something where they got enough positions where they're doing a special
Yeah.
election.
Yeah.
I think
Something with the wards. I think
It's a political issue,
it's-
yeah.
Sarah, what streets are they speaking of?
So from Onondaga Country Club through to Wegmans,
Mhm.
I think there's 3 residents that actually hooked up to the sewer when that was originally offered. And I don't know, there's another alcove off of Jamesville Road. You had awareness to it, Ed, but I don't know specifically what it is. There's another one-off street that is on septic right now.
Yeah, so what we were looking at was Eli, Linden, Edwards, possibly portion of Barbell. And then talked about off of Janesville, Dunlap, Addison, and possibly Janesville. There's some areas in there that don't have.
So could you put together estimates of what you think the cost would be for 1, 2 independent projects versus the cost of the townwide sewer?
Great.
And then if you could look at those other 2 laws like townwide water or townwide sewer, or excuse me, lighting. And because it would just be a parallel of those laws. And see what the process would take on that, because we might be able to catch them.
Doug is the precursor to all of this stuff.
Right.
You're getting the information
Getting it
to
together.
us about it.
Get a budget.
There's gonna be some costs involved that from Doug. What do you estimate putting together those numbers would cost you?
I don't know, I'll take a look at it and I'll let you know.
Because I was gonna have Sarah authorize you right now.
Yeah, no, that's right. So how much would it?
Up to $5,000, and if it costs more, you come back to us.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
And then I do have a question. If costs do go up, and they're much higher than we anticipate, could we eventually roll that into and to the programming costs once roll it over?
There's a couple of options yet, and I'd like to sit down with Rock and Doug.
Okay.
In it, but the options I'm thinking are a ban.
Yep.
That then rolls the cost over to when the law catches up.
Yep.
And then the other option is we still have some flexibility with the federal infrastructure money. There's a little bit of unidentified. We targeted several projects that are in that. And Doug is authorized to move forward on all of those, but there is possibility. I'd rather do something more. And that's where we sit down with Matt as well. We may be able to roll some of the districting costs into the infrastructure money. And professional services, I think, have, so Kerry Fusco will know what's allowable.
I'll make a motion.
All right, so I entertain a motion from Sarah, and a second from Joe. Authorize Miller Engineers up to $5,000 to prepare these estimates for some sewer projects and townwide district. So the numbers will come back to us if we make one district out of the two areas, or you make two separate districts versus a townwide district. So we'll have three numbers. Okay, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay. Anything else for the public section?
Big fireworks.
Oh,
We did the fireworks.
Oh, you did?
Yep. I do have something. Last meeting, we scheduled a public hearing for September 11th on the mixed use village law. But pending discussion that I was going to have with Jamie Sutton, and I have in the last couple of weeks been able to talk to her. And my interpretation was correct. That the way it is currently written does not only ignore the underlying zoning, but actually any other zoning that we have in the town of DeWitt as well. So the example that I used was we just went through cannabis legislation, and Jamie Sutton confirmed in her interpretation of the new law, if the cannabis legislation wouldn't even apply, that they could put a cannabis dispensary or lounge at Shopping Town or at any one of these in this district if it was approved.
One example.
And that's just one example.
right, yeah.
So my recommendation was honestly was to cancel that public hearing and to just rework the legislation so that it was a little more restrictive within that.
I agree. So I got a motion from Max to cancel the public hearing, a second from Sarah. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion's carried. To be continued.
Yes.
Thank you. That was important.
I've got birthday coming up, September 24th. Which means I have to re-register for my CLEs. So I have to look at CLE programs. And I'm hoping the board will support me to get my CLEs, but I just don't have the exact cost yet, so. Sarah, I just want to learn.
I got a whole bunch right in,
I want to learn.
I got a whole bunch right in this machine. Thousands of
I'm
them.
trying to find some interesting ones.
Well, there, that,
Find the cake.
really.
34 years old, Joe.
Oh, yay.
34,
Do you remember 34? I don't.
20 years ago.
What?
Looking for happy birthday wishes, though, just let the board know. I'm going back from.
We'll see if we get you a cake.
Yeah.
I make a motion.
Of course.
That's not what I want to vote
Motion for
for.
CLE. Of all nights to start, the night of Yom Kippur, you
Yeah.
go, kid.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session from Sarah, second from Joe. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thanks for coming out, Bo.
Thank you.
Go away.
This is how I spend my money.
Hey, you can always